Hi friends, my name is Jake. Welcome to Canadian Cutting Edge. I've got a knife I can only find in Canada. This is the Black Tusk HANGDOG. It comes in G10 with carbon fiber laminate or a sort of muted gray color G10, both for the same price. Regular price of this thing is 75 Canadian dollars. The American equivalent, I'll just put it on the screen right here. And it's a smaller knife, sub 3-inch blade, open pillar construction, axis lock style, thumb stud deployment. Ooh, didn't get all the way. Wonder if you heard that squeaking noise. We've got a drop point blade, an open-ended fuller. Pocket clip is right side only. Deep carry clip. Lanyard hole right at the very end. Why am I giving you all the details? I should be actually doing that on the tabletop. If you're interested in a small knife, you might want to find out about this. I looked, the owner of this knife is a viewer of the channel who ordered these two knives. I did the Kershaw review. I'm not sure if you're going to see this one first or that one. A Kershaw, the 7010. Now I forgot the name of the model, the word for it. Anyway, they're his knives. He bought them, had them sent directly to me from the factory, from the store, HouseOfKnives.ca. They were on sale. $60.99 Canadian right now. And I'm going to review them and then send them on to him. I'll probably sharpen them up really nice too. So if you're interested in this knife, I think you need to be in Canada. If you find it anywhere else, please let me know in the comments below. So let's take this thing to the tabletop and take a good close look at it. Keep watching. Let's start off with a size comparison. I usually pull out the Ontario Rat 1. Yeah, that's a bigger knife. This is not a big knife. Sub 3-inch blade, and you know, it's a smaller knife. It's smaller in just about every way, but not that much thinner actually, but definitely a shorter knife. If we just look at the handles, you know, from the end, you know, it's a smaller knife. But the blade length is not too bad. We've got probably a little more, about 3/8 of an inch longer blade on this guy than we have on this guy. So I really like small knives because you can fit a lot in a small package, and this fits in a fairly small package. One of my favorite small budget knives is this knife, and I'm showing it off in that other video as well, the other review for the Kershaw that I got from the same gentleman, got sent to me by the same gentleman. There you go. Line up those pivot pins. A little bit shorter in the handle, a little bit shorter in the blade. This one sells for $15 US right now. I bought it for under 10. Well, this one was more like 13. They usually come in an all steel construction. This one's a frame lock. Very nice knife. This is D2 because, hey, it's very popular in 2021, as it was since 2019, for knife makers to start to make D2. Everybody wants D2. Thankfully, there's getting some pushback now from the knife community. You know, we're getting tired of everything being made in D2. Yeah, D2 is good, but we've got way too many knives being made in D2 these days. I'd like to see more stainless steel knives. This is a nice drop point blade. It's got a nice sort of curve to it. It goes up a little bit of thumb ramp, comes down, and then it's got a drop. Just a shallow belly and then a straight section there. The fuller is open on the front. It's bead blasted inside there. And the rest is all satin. Nice high saber grind. Not too terribly thick behind the edge, which I quite like. Good sharpness choil. Thumb studs. These are T6 removable thumb studs, which on a lot of axis lock knives, you don't need any other deployment system because you can just fidget play with them back and forth. But not this one. I'll tell you why in just a minute. Talk about the handle now. Like I said, the handle is G10. It's 3D milled. We've got these 5 little teardrop things milled out of it. You can see the carbon fiber laminate on the top. That's fairly smooth, so it's a good thing that it's got that for extra traction. And then this is milled into the G10 here as well. Nice rounded edges all around. So it fits in the hand very well, except for the fact that this pocket clip somehow is uncomfortable. It's not that big. It's actually too shallow this way. It's got button screws, so it doesn't always slide all the way into the pocket. Ugh. T6 screws all over. 2 of them are mostly stripped out from the factory. This one and this one. The rest of the screws are in pretty good condition. The pivot screws, those are free-floating, so I had to put this system into a clamp while I tried to undo the pivot screws. I was going to take this apart because it's got problems. Before I talk about that, I wanted to talk about one last thing. The lanyard hole right at the very end. I wish they would have chamfered that hole a little bit, because that might be sharp enough, because this is carbon fiber laminate on the outside, that it's going to start to chafe on any paracord that you have through there. Open pillar construction. I like those hourglass shaped pillars there. It's sturdy. What's the problem with this knife? The big problem with this knife is it's very, very rough. The interface between the lock arm and that rounded part of the tang of the blade there is very, very rough. It's grinding and not sliding. I'll try adding a little bit of lubricant to it and stuff, but I'm reviewing what it is like from the factory. It is so rough that when you go to close the knife, I'll try to get this close to the microphones here. You can even hear the squeaking action, and it grinds. It's starting to actually get a little smoother with use, but it's grindy in there. The Omni springs are stronger than I'd like them to be. I wanted to take this knife apart so that I could maybe soften those Omni springs so they wouldn't be so strong because they're pulling really hard, and smooth out the action back there. But I cannot take this knife apart because these screws are stripped. Also, I found out they used some really strong thread locker in here, so at least they did on the pivot screws. So not that great. I did get a screw out on one of these 2 I got out, this one here. And yes, there was Loctite on that screw as well. I hate it when you can't take knives apart yourself. And this is one of those instances. A lot of budget knives, they've got very soft screw heads, and they use Loctite, and they just make it that you just can't do any of your own work with the knife. It was dirty in here. I've got some close-up pictures of the ricasso here from the factory. Dirty in there, and that's why it's grinding too. That's why I wanted to clean it out. It looks like it's got ball bearings in there. When I take a look at it and put it against the light, yeah, it's clear that there are ball bearings in there. So this thing should have some super smooth action. And if I pull the lock arm back all the way, then yeah, it's just soft. Even I don't mind pushing against the cutting edge because I'm not sliding along it, because it is so free. So I really wish that, it was a good smooth axis lock. I used an aluminum rod that I have, whacked on the spine. It stayed locked up just fine. I test with aluminum because that way the blade's going to stay fine. Or I use a piece of hardwood to check the lock. This one's good. Also, another little thing, there's a bit of a burr. They messed up right there at the end of the fuller right there. It could be fixed, but it's a little bit twisted and a bit of a burr left on that side. This side, it's nice and clean and smooth. There's no sharpness. But if you do run your fingers this way along the spine, that is a sharp edge that you run into. And if you've got soft skin, you could cut yourself a little bit right there. It's not the best design for some of those things. If I was keeping this knife for myself, and I could get the pivot nice and smooth, I would just take a file and turn that into a ramp instead of a straight edge right there. Since I can't take it apart, let's go to the sizes, dimensions, and all that stuff. I'll leave this on the screen while I'm doing that. The weight of this knife, 95 grams, 3.35 ounces. The factory sharpness measured right in the middle here, about 85 bests. Very sharp from the factory. The cutting edge length, 72.6 millimeters. That's 2.858 inches. Blade length, tip to the closest spot on the G10, 73.5 millimeters, 2.893 inches. So well under the 3-inch mark. The thickness of the blade here, 3.19 millimeters. That's 1.255 inches, so just over 1/8 of an inch thick. The blade depth, this way, the widest spot is right here at the heel, and measured between the heel and the spine, 22.6 millimeters, 0.889 inches. The thickness of the edge behind the grind, right about where my thumbnail is, about 1 inch up from the heel, 0.51 millimeters, 20 thousandths of an inch thick. So very good. I like that. The grind angle. Well, let's say this side measured in the middle, it's 21.5. This side in the middle, 28.7. At the heel, this side was 23.1, 21.5, 22.7. This guy, starting at the tip, 27.6, 28.7, 29.6. So it's not too much variation along the length of the blade, but significant variation from one side to the other. For a nice small knife like this, I'd probably sharpen it to 18 degrees per side. Now for the handle information, the handle length, 102 millimeters, that's 4.015 inches. The grip area, about 9 centimeters, about 3.5 inches. The handle thickness, 14.3 millimeters, that's 0.563 of an inch, so it's a little thicker than I prefer on a small knife. I'd like it to be under 1/2 an inch thick this way. The handle depth, right here it's the widest point within the grip, 23.8 millimeters, that's 0.937 of an inch. And when the knife is closed, the widest point is right about here, 28.2 millimeters, 1.11 inches. And the total length of this blade when it's deployed, tip to the very end, 175.1 millimeters, 6.894 inches. So 7 inches basically. The balance point on this knife, it's a little bit handle heavy, right about there. The grip on this knife, it's not comfortable. This pocket clip is just nasty. It's okay in the right hand. Some knives, there's no left-hand pocket clip. Some knives are okay in the left hand, but not this one. The pocket clip, it's just in the way. It really puts a lot of hot spots, a little bit on the middle finger, but on the next 2 fingers, your ring finger and your pinky finger, it's very uncomfortable. So if you're left-handed and you're thinking about this knife, I'm going to suggest that you stay away from it, unless you don't mind having no pocket clip. Let's demonstrate the pocket clip. I know I don't always do my videos all in the same order. I like to switch it up a little bit sometimes. It wants to step over the end there, but it's holding on tight, and sometimes it gets caught on those button screws. Sometimes it doesn't. When it doesn't get caught on the screws, not bad. It looks okay. It's pretty nice and functional. It just isn't that comfortable in hand. By the way, to take the knife apart to try to, I used this clamp. These are not very expensive. If you are a knife enthusiast, I would suggest that you buy something like this. I'll leave links down below. I've even got a video on this thing, and I'll leave a link for that as well. It's good to have a tabletop clamp, vise I should say, vise clamp, to do work with, because if you put a screwdriver on one side and a screwdriver on the other side and you're just doing it like this, you're going to eventually slip and stab yourself. Or this is going to fall out of the way, and trust me, I know these things from experience. So let's summarize what's good and what's not so good about this knife. Well, the pro list is a little bit shorter. I like the overall design and look of it. There's a lot to say about this knife that's positive. It's got a very usable blade shape. I like that. Decent grind, nice and thin, nice tip. Functional knife. The cons. This list is a little bit longer. The Omni springs are too strong on the axis lock. The grinding that happens when you close the knife is pretty bad. Opening it, it's not that bad, but closing it, yeah, not so good. Very rough. Button screws that are too soft. Button screws are bad enough in that they leave a little trench here for lint and dirt to get trapped in. But these ones are very soft and they stripped out. The quality of the screws for the pivot, those are pretty good, but it's free spinning again. You have to do the 2 screwdriver thing, so that's why you need a vise to hold it. The pivot area was very dirty. From the factory, it's just dirty in there. I haven't cleaned it up yet, and it's just nasty. It's uncomfortable in the left hand, so it's not left user-friendly. No left pocket clip option, which I think they should have put in there. I grew up left-handed, and I really see why it's good to make knives left-handed. So 10% of the population, still, that's 10% of the population. You lose 10% of the customers when you don't put something nice there. It's not the most comfortable in the right hand either in terms of how well it feels, because this is too big or it's too small. What I'm saying is my index finger rides right there. So it's a pressure point. No matter which hand you put it in, it's uncomfortable. If you just grip further back, that's okay. But then you can't really push on the blade and get a good, if you're needing to do some hard cutting, it doesn't work gripping it this far back. So it's hard to decide where to grip it sometimes because of the size of this big finger choil. Either make it a bit bigger so you can put 2 fingers in there, or smaller is my recommendation. And finally, it's a bit slippery in hand. I like that they put some, milling in here so it adds a little more grip, but there's no jimping anywhere. No jimping whatsoever. So yeah, if it had a little jimping back here, maybe if the rise came out a little bit further and had jimping on there too, that would be a whole lot better. I'm asking the owner if he wants me to try to fix or make the action really smooth. And if he says yes, then I'll add on another short little video, or maybe even onto this video, I'll add some more talking about if I got it working or not. Please subscribe to the channel. Please like, share, comment, all those good things. I would appreciate it if you would consider becoming a Patreon supporter of the network, of the channel network. Wow, not quite that big yet. Because I live on a disability pension, and I do this YouTube channel for 2 main reasons: to help people make good purchasing decisions, and to give myself something good to do for my own mental health, something that is a contribution to society, at least to some group in society, knife lovers. And, I can't use my own personal pension, which is pretty small, to run this channel. So I need your help. Thank you for liking, sharing, commenting, and subscribing. And remember, friends, always cut towards your chum, not your thumb. Bye for now.